I'll take your rich husband. A wife who can't earn is grounds for divorce. I returned home earlier than usual from work, eager to rest my tired body, and headed straight for the living room. However, what I found there was beyond my expectations. Sitting on the couch, engaging in intimate touches, were Tom and Yvonne. Their actions were suggestive, leaving me confused. But that confusion quickly turned to anger. "Well, you're both fired." The two of them looked at me in disbelief, as if wondering why I had the authority to fire them. Despite having discussed work and positions multiple times, their shocked expressions seemed out of place. I decided to clearly restate my identity to them once again. My name is Allie, 35 years old. It's not the biggest company, but I'm the CEO of a company I inherited from my father. I'm busy every day, but the job is fulfilling nonetheless. My husband Tom has been my support through all this. I met Tom during college. Influenced by dramas, I had been looking forward to college life. I got into the college I wanted and began living the life I had dreamed of, attending classes and participating in clubs. Even that was fulfilling, but I soon wanted to try things I hadn't done before, like getting a job. I was prohibited from working in high school. And since I commuted from home in college, I never needed to work. But this was a great opportunity to start something new as a college student. I quickly applied to a restaurant and got hired, where I met Tom, a year my senior. "I heard it's your first job, but don't be too nervous. There's a lot to learn, but you can take your time." "Thank you." When I was nervous on my first day at work, Tom spoke to me kindly, and that reassured me. It's common to become closer as you work together. Tom and I were no exception. We would find ourselves talking during breaks, on the way home, or whenever we had a moment to spare. We learned about each other's hobbies, thoughts, the way we think, and the paths we've taken in life. We discovered we attended the same university, which brought us even closer together. Before long, whenever we saw each other on campus, we started working on assignments together and having lunch. It didn't take long for us to fall in love. Tom was just as kind and considerate as when we first met. A truly wonderful person. After we started dating, I became even more attracted to him, to the point where I wanted to spend my life with him. It seemed I wasn't the only one who felt this way. When I graduated from university and started working at the company my father ran, Tom talked to me about our future. "Hey, once we're a bit more settled in our jobs, how about we get married?" Hearing the word marriage made me a bit nervous, but my mind was already made up. "Yeah, of course. If you're okay with me." Tom's response was a beaming smile. A happy expression I'll never forget. For years later, without separating, we got married. Tom landed a job at a well-known company with good pay, and I was set to become the CEO in the future. Our future seemed secure. For years after we got married, I officially took over the company and became the CEO. As CEO, I had a busy life filled with greetings, networking, and managing subordinates. I'm beat. As soon as I got home, I sprawled out on the sofa. Tom gave me a slightly troubled look. "You've been pushing yourself too hard lately, haven't you? Are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine. I think now's the crunch time. It should settle down soon." "Well, as long as you're sure." Tom placed a mug on the table. From it wafted the scent of the herbal tea I love. "You made this for me? Thanks." "Yeah, I figured you'd be tired." Saying this, he took a sip from his own mug. Despite the demanding days, having Tom's support means I can keep going without breaking. But I never take this life for granted. Just as Tom does for me, I need to support him too. I made a point of thanking Tom again and continued to work hard, both at my job and with the household chores. Living in our own house, I was at the height of happiness. However, this lifestyle didn't last long. Maybe if I had noticed Tom's discomfort earlier, or if I had spoken differently, things might not have ended the way they did. A year after becoming CEO, when work had finally started to settle down, and we were enjoying a more relaxed lifestyle, One day, Tom approached me with a serious look. A look I'm not used to seeing on him, which made me a bit scared. You know, I might start having a lot of overtime soon. Overtime? That sounds tough. So, I just wanted to say, I might be coming home late more often and might cause you some trouble. Oh, don't worry about it. It might be hard, but hang in there. Tom smiled, relieved by my words. I was bracing myself for what he might say, but if it's just overtime, maybe there's no need to worry too much. Just like Tom has been there for me, it's my turn to support him, so I psyched myself up. A week after Tom's talk, just as he said, he started coming home late because of overtime. At first, I often stayed up waiting for him, but as his return time got later and later each day, I couldn't stay up too late because of my own job. Despite living under the same roof, the days we didn't see each other's faces started to increase. However, on days he could come home early or our days off overlapped, we made sure to spend time together so I didn't feel too lonely. But then, one day, I noticed something off about Tom. He started acting strangely distant and cold towards me. "Welcome back." "Hi." It was all he'd reply, with a curt response. He wouldn't even try to meet my eyes anymore. The meals I cooked, which he used to eat happily, he now said he didn't want. "I made dinner because you said you'd be home to eat." Plans changed. Ate out. Got invited by my boss. If you had told me when the plans were made, I could have adjusted. Geez, quiet down. I was invited, couldn't help it. Are we done here? I'm tired and don't want to talk. I thought his coldness was just because he was tired from all the overtime, but it seemed to be something else. It didn't take long for me to realize that. You have overtime tomorrow too? What's it to you? It does matter. I hate not knowing when you'll be home, and there's dinner to think about. Damn, noisy. I'll let you know if anything. Good? Tom seemed to want to end the conversation quickly, throwing out a dismissive suggestion. Okay, got it. Then, bye. Tom left for work without once meeting my eyes. Despite his promise, no call came from Tom, and he didn't pick up any of mine. Welcome back. What happened? You said you'd call. Did I say that? Don't remember. He replied, seemingly in a better mood than in the morning. From the disarray of his suit and his demeanor, it was clear he'd been drinking quite a bit. You did say so. I was worried when you didn't pick up my calls. It's fine if you go out drinking, but at least let me know what time you'll be home. Damn, quiet down. It's none of your business where I am or what I'm doing. And don't treat me like a kid, asking me to tell you when I'll be home. Not being a kid. Even adults worry, you know? What if you got into an accident or something and I wouldn't even know? An accident or something? As if that would ever happen. You worry too much. No matter how much I tried to express my concerns for Tom, it seemed not to reach him. You know, getting lectured as soon as I get home really ruins my mood. Wait a minute. Tom didn't listen to me to the end and went straight to his room. Continuing the conversation seemed pointless as he wasn't listening. I just silently watched his back. Continuing like this, 2 months had flown by, with the distance between Tom and me growing ever wider. No matter how much I tried to talk to Tom, I was only met with rejection. Realizing that it was futile to force conversation, I stopped trying to initiate talks with him. With Tom also not making any effort to talk, even being in the same space felt awkward. What would become of Tom and me from here on? Perhaps it would be easier to just get a divorce. It was around this time that I started to feel the presence of another woman around Tom. The scent of women's perfume whenever he passed by, foundation and glitter on his dress shirts. Every time I recognized signs of another woman, my heart tightened. At the same time, I began to doubt his overtime stories. Could it be that he was using overtime as an excuse to meet someone else? There are so much evidence. It was hard not to be suspicious. Perhaps it was indeed better to get a divorce. I began to seriously consider divorcing Tom. To think my feelings for him, which had once been so strong, could fade so easily. I had thought I would spend my life with Tom, and this change in my feelings left me a bit bewildered. Deciding on divorce made me feel slightly relieved. We were no longer in love with each other, after all. Initially, realizing that Tom's feelings were not with me was painful. But once my mind was made up, it didn't matter anymore. Tom continued to live as he pleased, taking advantage of my silence. Not telling me when he'd be home became the norm. Often, after I'd made dinner because he said he needed it, he'd come home saying he had already eaten. It seemed Tom never thought I'd catch on to his affair. He still brought home dress shirts caked in foundation and lipstick as if I wouldn't notice. If he cared even a little, you'd think he'd at least try to wash them himself or make some effort to remove the stains. Initially, it hurt to see, but gradually, I became accustomed to it. I calmly took photos of the evidence left on the dress shirts and saved them in a folder. Occasionally looking back at them and contemplating how to confront him about divorce. One day, I decided to ask Tom a question. "Hey Tom, are you really working overtime?" "Huh?" I knew asking this could put me at a disadvantage. But I had to know. "I've been curious. I know it's a bit late to ask, but you're often out so late for work. Are you okay, health-wise?" Asking this question and then having to fabricate a lie to avoid suspicion felt pathetic. I waited for his response while looking at him. He sighed heavily, clearly annoyed, and then spoke. "What are you on about? If I say I'm working overtime, then I'm working overtime. Do you think I have any reason to lie to you? I'm working this hard, even doing overtime, all for you who earns nothing. And yet you dare to doubt me. Me, earning nothing? Yeah, right? You're always back home before me, just lazing around. You used to say something about being a CEO, but it must be some worthless company, right? Oh, or did you get demoted?" I couldn't believe my ears. It's not like I think I'm earning an astronomical amount. But it's definitely not laughable by any standard. And I am still the CEO. That reaction, so you did get demoted, huh? Should've just been honest instead of lying. No, it's not that I got demoted, it's just... Yeah, I get it. Don't try to act like you earn more than me. It's ugly. No matter what I said to Tom, it seemed like it never reached his ears. He interrupted me and kept hurling heartless words my way. "Seriously, marrying someone like you was a mistake. Not only are you unattractive and unsuccessful, but you also don't earn anything. How could you?" The only time Tom ever seems to smile when he's with me is when he's mocking me. With a nasty grin on his face, he seemed to take pleasure in belittling me continuously. After that, Tom's behavior became even worse. Maybe he realized I was onto his affair after I asked that question. However, he didn't try to hide it. Instead, he seemed to taunt me by flaunting his affairs more openly. Coming home smelling like women's perfume became a regular occurrence. The days he wouldn't come home without any notice, or when he'd return after the date had changed, clearly increased. Naturally, he was never home on his days off. "You're going out again today? What I do is none of your business. Got a problem with that?" "No, not really." "If you've got nothing to say, then don't talk to me. You're an eyesore." Where did the Tom I met at the beginning go? Did my presence change his personality? Or was he hiding his true self all this time while being with me? Fearing the truth, I couldn't bring myself to ask him anything. I got used to coming back to a house with all the lights off. I knew it was supposed to feel sad and lonely, yet there was a part of me that just wouldn't admit it. Admitting it felt like it would break me. As I was gathering enough evidence and looking for the right moment to bring up divorce, something fortuitous happened. It was on a day I had to stay late at work due to a troublesome issue at the company. The problem was so severe that I knew I wouldn't be able to get home until after the date had changed. However, I managed to wrap up the work faster than expected and started heading home earlier than planned. Knowing it would be pointless, I still reported to Tom that I'd be working overtime. When I checked my phone upon leaving the office, as expected, my messages were unread. It seemed like I was blocked. Despite being used to this treatment, suddenly feeling a wave of sadness hit me hard. I bought some dinner from a convenience store and made my way home. Upon arriving and looking down to take off my shoes, I felt a sense of unease. There, lined up, were unfamiliar shoes with high heels and cute decorations. It only took a moment for my brain to freeze before I realized Tom's affair partner must be inside. I carefully took off my shoes without making a sound and tiptoed towards the living room. Then, I opened the door. Inside, I found Tom and a woman I didn't know. They were sitting on the sofa, engaging in intimate touches. The way they touched each other made me want to look away.
What are you doing?
The two of them looked up in shock. Huh? What? Why are you here?
Weren't you supposed to be working overtime today?
Well, I was supposed to, but... It seemed like they were confused because they thought I would be coming home late due to overtime. And had brought the woman home because of that. Why are you home? You said you might be late today, didn't you? I did say that, but I said I might be late, didn't I? Didn't you read the message properly?
You're really annoying, you know that? Nitpicking over words.
Yeah, whatever. After being accused, my anger faded and I became calm. What's her name?
Huh? Why should I tell you her name?
If you don't tell me, I'll just keep calling you hey bitch. Is that okay?
Yvonne.
When pressed, Yvonne revealed her name. How did you two meet? At work. Yvonne is my junior. So, you work together. I looked back and forth between the two of them, still confused. Now, what should I do with this information? As I continued to talk nonchalantly, Tom suddenly raised his voice.
What's with you, anyway? You've been saying whatever you want.
Yvonne, agreeing with Tom, didn't hold back either.
Exactly. If you hadn't said you were working late, this wouldn't have happened. We would have met somewhere else like usual. Yeah. Stop saying weird things.
Gone was their pitiful demeanor, replaced by a robust defiance as they began to berate me together. You know, I heard you don't really earn much. That's pathetic. This one, always bragging about being a CEO. Turns out she was demoted. Seriously? That's the worst. Their mocking laughter was grating, making me even more uncomfortable. Oblivious to how I felt, they continued to insult me. I knew better than to get worked up. That would only play into their hands. They finally made a comment that crossed the line. I'll take your rich husband, thanks. A wife who can't earn is grounds for divorce. In that moment, I resolved to take action. To silence them and to have the last laugh, there was only one way forward. Well, you're both fired.
What?
Their eyes widened, lost for words. They seemed eager to speak, but I didn't wait and continued. Don't worry. I'll also grant you a divorce. I'll talk to your company about this.
Hey! How can you decide something like that? It doesn't make any sense. Are you saying you're firing us because of the affair? You don't even have any proof.
Why can I decide on firing? Well, I can't directly, but I can report to your superiors.
Why would you?
Taking their words, I pulled out my business card.
This company is... You've been deceiving me.
In fact, the company I'm CEO of is a client of Tom's company. I've talked to Tom several times about my work and position. It's you who didn't believe what I said, right? By the way, I have evidence of your affair, gathered by a detective agency. Seems you had quite fun in hotels and this house during work hours. After I was sure of Tom's affair and decided on divorce, I hired a detective agency to gather conclusive evidence and to know the face of the affair partner. Tom and Yvonne met almost daily, and within about 2 weeks, we secured enough evidence. I knew Yvonne's name and that she was Tom's subordinate from the evidence, but I wanted her to admit those basic facts herself. After finding out you've been doing such things during work hours, I had no choice but to report to the company, right?
Please, don't report this to the company. It'll ruin my chances of promotion. Yeah, just because you don't like us, doesn't mean you have to go this far.
Do you think I'm reporting because I don't like you? What you're doing is not appropriate for work, that's why I'm planning to report it. It's only natural, as a CEO. Speaking very calmly, the two shifted their gaze awkwardly. So, Yvonne, could you leave? Tom and I need to discuss our divorce.
But... What? After all that noise, you still have something to say? Once the divorce is finalized, you're going to marry him anyway, right? Isn't that what you said? You'll take my rich husband.
Provoking them with my words, Yvonne bit her lower lip in frustration and left the house. Then, I turned back to Tom. You need to leave soon too.
What? Why do I have to leave?
Because this house is in my name. It's essentially my property. Why should I be the one to leave? Can you explain that? Of course, he couldn't give a proper explanation. Without waiting for Tom to respond, I presented the divorce papers I had prepared in front of him. Here, sign this and leave the house within a week. I have copies, so throwing it away is pointless.
This is too sudden. Besides, you can't just spring a divorce on me like this.
What? Weren't you the one who mentioned divorce first? Have you forgotten what you said? Is your memory okay? I had rarely spoken back before, but suddenly insisting on a divorce seemed to have caught him off guard. Tom remained silent, continuing to look at me. However, he soon snapped back to reality. Cutting me off, he tried to appear strong. Whatever you say, my decision to divorce won't change. Just sign the divorce papers already.
Fine. If you want a divorce that badly, I'll give you one. I'll leave the house too. Do whatever the hell you want.
Tom signed the divorce papers messily and slammed them on the table as if to vent his anger.
Don't come back later saying you want to reconcile. I'm going to remarry Yvonne.
As if I'd want to reconcile. Just don't come crying back to me wanting to get back together.
Shut up. Like I would cry to you. Don't flatter yourself.
Despite being caught cheating and facing the possibility of being fired, he seemed surprisingly nonchalant. He probably thought my threat to report to his workplace was a bluff. I watched Tom's back as he stomped off to his room, making loud footsteps. Within a week, Tom had packed his belongings and left the house. See ya, ugly. His final words were so childish, I couldn't help but laugh. Wanting no further ties, I decided not to demand alimony. Being able to divorce me without paying alimony. It was probably the best outcome for Tom. After I announced the divorce, Tom was unstable, fluctuating between exhaustion and sudden anger, but it seemed his anger towards me prevailed in the end. After Tom left, I filed the divorce papers. I reported the affair between Tom and Yvonne to their company's CEO, with evidence. The president seemed oddly convinced by my story. What's the situation with these two in the company? There have been some issues. Their work attitude isn't great, and I've heard from employees that they do their jobs haphazardly. I heard my ex-husband was relied upon at the company. Is that not true? I couldn't help but feel impressed by Tom's ability to lie in that situation. Based on the CEO's response, the possibility of Tom being promoted seemed like a lie. Thank you. I honestly didn't expect them to engage in misconduct during work hours. I'd like to talk to them directly before deciding on their punishment. Thank you. A week later, I received a message from the CEO that Tom and Yvonne had been given termination notices. I had relievedly anticipated some legal or procedural complications since I had declared them fired, but it seemed there were enough grounds for their dismissal. Perhaps now they understood their situation. That's what I thought, but on the night the CEO contacted me, I was relaxing at home when my phone rang. It was Tom's name on the display. After how much he had expressed his disdain for me, him calling was unexpected. At first, I wondered why he would call, but soon guessed he was probably complaining about being actually fired. It seemed wise not to answer. I left the phone on the table without picking up. However, Tom's calls didn't stop. If a call ended, he would immediately call back, which was annoying. Thinking he might come to my house if I continued to ignore him, I reluctantly decided to answer the phone.
Hello? Hello? What do you mean, hello? What's with the carefree attitude?
Tom's shouting came through the phone the moment I answered. So loud that I instinctively pulled the phone away from my ear. Why are you angry? What do you want?
You really went and snitched to the company. The CEO called me in and said I'm fired.
I wouldn't lie. But to think the stories about you being relied upon at the company were false.
Shut up.
What are you going to do about this?
Yvonne and I have lost our jobs because of you.
Tom seemed to want to blame me for losing his job, but this situation was entirely their fault. Had they not had the affair, they wouldn't have been fired, I think. Even if I said this, Tom wouldn't listen. I didn't retort but calmly continued to listen to Tom. However, my calmness seemed to infuriate him even more.
Why are you silent? Say something.
What do you want me to say? That I'll hire you?
Who'd work for your company? Apologize to us and pay compensation. You've cost us our jobs, so you should at least cover our living expenses. If you refuse, I'll sue you. Got that?
Tom's insistence on not being at fault allowed him to make such bold statements. But I was struck by the thought that he really believed he was in a position to sue. Could he actually think that just threatening a lawsuit would make me comply? The immaturity that never changed made me sigh deeply. What are you even saying? Are you serious about a lawsuit? On what grounds do you intend to sue me?
For instigating our dismissal.
If you think being fired is my fault, you really have a blissfully ignorant brain. Do you think saying you'll sue is some kind of magic word? That's really shallow.
Shallow? I don't want to be called that by you.
Tom, not even understanding what shallow means, proved further discussion was pointless. Nothing I say would get through to him. If you want to talk about lawsuits or compensation, I'm going to hang up.
Hey! What's with that tone? Are you mocking me?
Yes, I'm hanging up now. I cut off Tom mid-sentence and ended the call. When he called again, I ignored it and set my phone to block his calls. I placed the now silent phone on the table and started to nap on the sofa. However, I would soon deeply regret not taking his threats more seriously. About a week after Tom's call, as I was doing chores, the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting any deliveries or visitors, so I cautiously looked at the monitor. There, I saw an angry Tom and Yvonne. It seemed they had come to my house to complain. If that was the case, it was clear they were still fixated on me. Maybe it would be best to ignore them. But they seemed very angry. If they acted on their anger and broke a window or the lock, that would be a real problem. Deciding to face them, I was about to head to the entrance when the doorbell rang again, accompanied by loud banging on the door. I hurried to the door and opened it. Why are you here?
You're slow coming out. It's common sense to come quickly when the doorbell rings.
I don't think someone who lacks common sense can lecture me on it.
Don't mock me.
Their belief that they still had any common sense was amusing. I certainly didn't mean to mock you. I just stated the fact that you lack common sense.
You're really infuriating.
Watching Tom struggle to find a comeback almost made me laugh.
Stop smirking. You really are a nasty woman.
They didn't get to the point and just kept hurling meaningless insults. So? What do you want? I'm busy, you know.
We want you to ask for our dismissal to be revoked. If you can't do that, then pay us compensation and living expenses. That's right. It's all your fault, so you need to take responsibility.
So they had come to my house for that reason. I kind of expected it, but hearing it directly still took me aback a bit. First of all, if you two hadn't cheated or if you had just done your jobs properly, you wouldn't have been fired. I've told you so many times.
But you're the reason we got fired, right? Going to the CEO like that is just creepy. Exactly. You're just obsessed. Are you jealous because Tom chose me? Even if you are, it's pointless to be jealous.
The idea that I'm acting out of jealousy is absurd. When will they stop interpreting things in their own favor?
Are you serious? Yeah. Anyway, just quietly listen to us and pay the money. Even now, you still think you're not at fault? I might have been the catalyst, but ultimately, the decision to fire you was made by the CEO. He thought your actions were not suitable for the company. Do you understand what this means?
My patience had run out, and I raised my voice at them. They looked visibly confused by my words.
You're adults, right? Stop being so selfish. It's really pathetic. Selfish? Yes, selfish. Did you really think your demands for money and job reinstatement would work? Don't make me laugh.
At this point, I might have to resort to the last resort. If they don't calm down after this, I'll consider consulting the appropriate authorities.
Pay me compensation. Huh? Wait. Why? I really wasn't planning on taking any alimony for the affair. But if you're going to be this persistent and keep making bizarre claims, then it's a different story. Pay up and make amends for what you've done.
The word alimony from my mouth left them speechless. But soon, Yvonne started to object.
Wait, why should we pay alimony to someone we've divorced? We're not related anymore, right? Yeah, that's right. There's no way this makes any sense.
Don't you know? Even after divorce, you can claim alimony within a certain period.
That's...
Realizing they were in a position to be asked for alimony, they finally seemed to understand their situation. But that didn't mean they were ready to agree easily.
We don't have money. Look, we apologize for everything up to now. So don't go on about claiming alimony, okay? Yeah, sorry. We said some terrible things. This is good, right? So, about the alimony.
I had a feeling you two were short on cash, especially since Tom has always been extravagant with money. No matter how much you apologize, my feelings won't change. And if you think such apologies are enough for forgiveness, maybe you should rethink a few things? They clearly didn't want to pay because they claimed to have no money, but that's none of my concern. I'll take as much alimony as possible to make them regret their actions. No matter what you say or do, my decision won't change. Expect to hear from my lawyer, now please leave.
But. No but. Now, leave.
I pushed them out the door and forced them outside. The doorbell and knocking persisted, trying to force the door open, but when I mentioned calling the police, the noise stopped. Later, as promised, I had a lawyer claim alimony from Tom and Yvonne. Though I wasn't present at the discussion, the lawyer told me about their demeanor. They seemed desperate not to pay. But eventually, they begrudgingly agreed to make the payment. Coming to my house was a mistake on their part. I'm glad I divorced Tom, who's proven to be incredibly childish. A year has passed since then, and I've received the alimony payments from Tom and Yvonne, ensuring they're getting by somehow. For a while, Tom sent emails saying he was unhappy with Yvonne and wanted to reconcile. But I ignored them as a waste of time. And eventually, they stopped. What happened to them afterward is none of my concern. As for me, I continue to thrive as a CEO. With the business going well and plans for expansion underway. Blessed with a good team, I feel fortunate. I'm ready to do whatever it takes to protect my company. With this mindset, I gratefully continue my work.